We're waiting, everyone is connecting, so we're gonna give it a couple of seconds. Hang in there.
Flora, I think we're ready.
Perfect, thank you. Welcome everyone, we are super excited to have you here. We didn't see you last week, we gave you a break due to midterms, but we really missed you. As you know, these are Tuesday Times Roundtable sponsored by the New York Times. We do this every spring and every fall. Due to the circumstances, we have been doing it online. So instead of roundtable, there have become Zoom tables. We are super glad to have you here. For those that don't know, FIU students, faculty, and staff, we have access to the New York Times online. We'll provide you more information on the next slide. Welcome everyone. Again, my name, I always forget to introduce myself, is Florencia Dominguez, Program Coordinator from the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. And here we have some important reminders. Jenny, you want to take it away?
Sure. And I was about to introduce you anyways when it was my turn. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny Simon. I am the program manager over at the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. As usual, it's a pleasure to see you all. Welcome to anyone that is new to Tuesday Times Roundtables. Just a few reminders. Please mute yourself while the speakers are presenting. If you do have questions, though, you can use the chat or you can raise your hand so that we can call on you. This Tuesday Times Roundtable is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel so that people who are not able to join with us today, they can watch a later time. We encourage everyone to use their cameras. However, it is not a requirement of the session. So if you don't feel comfortable or for whatever reason you don't want to use it, that's totally fine. We do ask you to please engage in the chat and write your questions, comment, thoughts throughout. And remember that GLM students receive 1 point for participating in the Tuesday Times Roundtables, and that you can always register for the future sessions going to go.fiu.edu/TTR.
And we have a couple of announcements from our office to all of you guys.
So we wanted to share that, and actually Eric Feldman, the Associate Director for FIU in DC, who's making all of this possible, is here with us today. But we have a session with the United States Institute of Peace coming up this week. It's going to take place October 21st from 1 to 2 p.m. And we have 20 spaces for Global Learning Medallion students. Actually, we just got notified that we only have 10 spots left. So if you're interested, please sign up. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or Florencia in case you have any questions about what it entails. But it's a really good opportunity to connect with a GLM and Peace Corps Prep alumna, Nanette Bosa, who is a finance and administrative assistant for the Africa program at the United States Institute of Peace. So that should be really good, not only because of the important work that they do, but also you get to see what our FIU alumni are doing after they participate in the program, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and also I'm gonna incorporate, if it's okay, the link of registration on the chat. I have it ready.
Of course, absolutely, yeah.
Perfect.
And also, I should remind people that this is a 1 point opportunity towards the medallion as well.
Eric, you want to add anything without taking much time from the speakers, but do you want to add anything about this particular session?
Just that I knew Nanette very well when I was running the medallion program and know her story very well. And we'll be having a great conversation about how her experience at FIU and her desire to go to DC will really come out in ways that I think will be very relatable.
Thank you. And another opportunity, and I don't know if you guys can see it on my shared screen, but I don't know if you know, at FIU, we have the Peace Corps Prep program. This is a formal partnership with Peace Corps. I don't want to take too much time to it, but if you're interested on becoming part of the Peace Corps Prep, I will say two things. Fill out the interest form by October 30th, 2020. I will put the link on the website, on the chat, but also visit our website and you'll find all the information about Peace Corps Prep right there. So if you're interested in service abroad, working in humanitarian causes, NGOs, all of that sort of work, I will say, please, please, please fill out the application. I don't want to take too much time on this, or please contact me and Jenny for more info. So now, without further ado, we are super excited for this particular session because we have our very own Sherry Rods-Beeson presenting, and Dr. Sarah Matthews. This session is called Citizenship and Civic Identity. It was supposed to happen last semester because of COVID. Tuesday Times Roundtable got sort of postponed, and this is, I think by chance, this is on the right time. This is a perfect session, so pay attention, engage. We are really, really, really lucky and appreciated that you guys are here taking the time to have this very important conversation. And I would like to briefly introduce the speakers. And let me move this so I can see. So we have Dr. Sarah Matthews. She's the chair of the Department of Teaching and Learning here at FIU. And she has been teaching social studies and education courses for over 14 years. Her bachelor's and master's degrees are in social studies education, and her doctoral degree was in curriculum and instruction. Dr. Matthews has taught or engaged in educational research in Egypt, Kenya, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Uganda, and Venezuela. She currently serves as the leader of the social studies education program. She's the recipient of several awards in her field, and Dr. Matthews' research focuses on global citizenship education, pedagogies to develop perspective consciousness and intercultural competence, emergent methods in qualitative research and digital participatory research. Thank you so much, Dr. Matthews, for being here. And again, we have Sherry Beeson, our very own. She's the Senior Program Coordinator of the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. Sherry joined the OGLI team 4 years ago as a graduate assistant. Her passion for global learning was ignited early as a child and has been continuously fueled by her studies and work at FIU. She is currently involved in research projects focused on pre-service and in-service teachers, stories of global learning, the transformative effects of global learning experiences on undergraduate students, the intersection of college students' civic, culture, and cultural identities, and culturally sustaining professional development. She has presented on these and other topics at various professional conferences across the country. We are very lucky to have you not only present, but as part of our team and across my office right now. So I will give you the power, Sherry. And
all right.
Dr. Matthews.
So it's a real honor to be with you guys today, and we hope, we want to engage in a conversation today with you. This is a real give and take where we are very interested in what you have to say, and we're glad you're here to hear what we have to say too. So I am going to share my screen. Everybody can see the PowerPoint, yay?
Yeah.
Right.
And I also want to thank you for inviting us to speak about this today. And as Florencia had mentioned, we were supposed to do this in the spring, but it actually, I think, is more timely and more impactful that we're having this conversation today, given that our early voting has already started and the election is coming up. So thank you all for attending, and we hope that we can engage you all in sort of an interactive presentations where we can look at our own selves and our own identity and the way that interacts with our notions of citizen. and citizenship. So if you notice that we have a sheet here, a diagram, and there's 5 bubbles. And so what I want you all to do, take out a scrap sheet of paper or a pen and paste, pencil or paper, something that you can jot your ideas around. But I want you to think about your own identity and the salient ideas about your own identity, the things that jump out when I say identity, the things that you most identify with. And if you notice, each of these bubbles are a different size. So I want you to think about 5 different characteristics about your identity, and I want you to jot them down. Of course, I know you don't have this particular worksheet, but think about which you would put in the smaller bubbles and which you would put in the bigger bubbles. So the idea is those bubbles that are bigger would be those aspects of your identity that you think are the strongest or more important. And then the smaller would be those things that are a little bit more salient. So we're going to give you about a minute or two to engage in this activity and think about your identity.
Is there a way you could show the sheet in the camera so people could look at it? Do you have an empty one, like a clear one, or no?
I don't. Can you not see it on the PowerPoint?
Oh, sorry. It's because I have the chat open and I couldn't see anything.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
My bad, everybody.
Okay. Just want to make sure everybody can see the thing. Okay. Okay, has everybody had a chance to think about this? If you still need some more time to think, process your thoughts, that's fine. We will come back to this activity later on in our presentation. So keep your notes there and we'll come back to that. But one of the things I wanted to point out was in this particular activity, we have the word citizen written in the center. So as we continue through this presentation, we want you to think about how these different aspects of your identity impact your notion of citizen and how your notion of citizen may either impact or conflict with your notions of identity. Sherry, we can.
Yep.
Next slide. Okay, so I just want to give you a little background about some research that Sherry and I are actually in the process of conducting. And this is a study where we were exploring FIU students' notions of cultural identity, civic identity, and the intersection of them, as well as how that may or may not influence their career choices. And today we're going to talk about the first 2 parts, the intersection of cultural identity and civic identity. Some background on this particular study is that I was teaching a course on qualitative research analysis, and I had a group of, I believe, 14 amazing graduate students in that course. And we decided to conduct a research study as a group. And so this was one of the things that we, through the process of brainstorming and thinking through, we kind of we had a focus of cultural identity. Some people wanted to look at civic identity and some wanted to look at career choice. And so I thought, why don't we look at all of them and see if there's some connection between them? And so in qualitative research, well, at least in this particular study, our data consists of interviews, hour-long interviews with, at this point, we've had 20 different undergraduate students at FIU. So we were looking at a range of different undergraduate students from different career, different majors. And each individual interviewed at least one, and some did two. So we have interviews at this point with 20 FIU students. And we asked a variety of different questions. And the first question that became like an aha moment for our group is this idea of how do you define the term civic identity? So a lot of the research out there on civics and civic and citizenship, they look at three different areas. Often it's most likely that the research is looking at what kind of civic knowledge do people need to have. So that's the idea, like, do you know how many branches of government branches are in the US government? Or do you know how a bill becomes a law? That's civic knowledge. Other studies look at civic skills. So that could be things like, do you know how to vote? Do you know if you have a grievance, do you know who in your local government you could address? Do you know how, you know, if you want to be a school board member, do you know how to, what the process to do that? And the third area that is often overstudied is civic engagement. So a lot of research looks at how involved individuals are. So are you just someone that follows the law and pays your taxes? Are you someone that you know, is on like your condo association board? Do you help canvass for political candidates? Are you someone that's into social justice and is looking at issues in society and sort of working to fight back against them? But the term civic identity is often under-researched. And I was just recently in a presentation yesterday with a colleague of mine from University of Florida, Dr. Chris Busey, who reminded us that for many Black, Indigenous people of color, non-native born Americans, and individuals of the LGBTQIA community often see their identity as, they have historically seen their identity placed in a contest or a binary against what it means to be an American citizen. So I think a lot of these, this idea of civic identity is very important, is a very important term to explore. What was interesting in our study is when we asked our 20 participants how they would define the term civic identity, nobody knew how to define it. And so at first the group was like, oh no, this is, what does this mean? And I thought, this is an amazing finding, right? I'm a civic educator, and my role is to prepare teachers to teach about citizenship and civic identity. And obviously we're not doing that if people find it very difficult to talk about their civic identity. So this has launched us into a new world, new realm of research. And we're going to share some of the quotes from our findings. And then we want you guys to think in terms of your own self, how will you define civic identity, and how does your identity interact with your notions of citizenship and what it means to be a citizen?
So while you're thinking about that, you might not be surprised that we found a New York Times article that kind of spoke to this idea of at least citizenship and maybe what it means to be a citizen. The article is by Chris Cameron, and if you haven't had a chance to read it yet, it's cool, no problem. I hope you take a little time later to read it, because it's a short article, but he has a lot to say. And I don't know, we'll see what you guys think about it closer to the end. So he says, the day he was taking his oath of naturalization, there were people in that courtroom from all over the world, right? He's in there, the room is packed, and wow, you can imagine some hearts are beating a little faster. This is a pretty big event in their lives. And I hope you can kind of see this picture. I don't think I can actually, nope, I can't expand it for you, but here's a picture of another different naturalization ceremony, but I think it kind of captures what he's talking about there. Does anybody want to see what or tell us what you see in this picture? Share something that kind of jumps out at you. And I can't see the chat, so somebody else is going to have to look at that part.
Someone say a family.
Oh, it looks like family members or a family there. Okay.
Diversity.
Diversity. Anything else?
I see hard work, but perhaps it's because I went through the process of becoming a citizen and I know
What that's like.
what that's like. So when I see the picture, that's what it reminds me of. Yeah.
Anybody else? So I saw the same things you did, things you've pointed out, but I also see what I think is a serious desire. I think it's in their faces. You can give me a thumbs up if you agree, but you don't have to.
And we also have Alyssa wrote, she sees responsibilities in this image.
Ah, wow. Good point. Okay.
Sorry, there seems to be a lot of there seems to be a lot of emotion in those pictures on the faces.
Definitely, right?
Like strong emotions.
Someone has their eyes closed, and I don't think it's because someone's taking a picture. But yeah, I see this emotion too. What a day, right? So Chris says, and I want you to think about this, this was written a little more than a year ago. So a year ago this September. He says the growing political extremism did not stop him from wanting to become a citizen. And just imagine, since then we've had COVID, we've had the murder of George Floyd and the protests against that happening and other murders like it. So he says, no, this didn't stop me. And then the judge says, America benefits from your citizenship because of each of you and those who come before you and those who will come after. America will be a stronger and better place. That's pretty powerful, right? So I'm wondering what you guys think. So how is America a better place because of you or because of me or because of people who want to become citizens here? And you can answer again in the chat or, you know, holler. I'd love to hear from you.
And we're all educators, so we're very comfortable with taking that moment of silence until our students answer.
Yep. So is America a better place because of you?
Oh, wow.
There is a chat from Raquel that said she can't unmute herself.
It is enabled.
Uh-oh.
You should be able, Raquel, to mute yourself. Do you want to try?
Okay, I don't know what happened because an error message just showed up saying, no, you can't. I said, okay, now I gotta talk to Annie and see what's going on.
Go
Okay.
ahead, Raquel.
Okay, hello everyone. First up, thank you for coming in today. Thank you for your presentation. When I want to qualify with this statement because whenever I think about the difficulties that our nation faces with the extremities and then the people who are against immigrants, I think back especially on, I'm going to be very straightforward. This is a very serious topic, so I'm going to be straightforward.
Absolutely.
When it comes to, thank you. When it comes to, for instance, white Americans, many times, and it's sad, but it's true, many times they forget that they themselves are the children and grandchildren of immigrants. And so I think about it a lot when I'm told, I'm going to say it, when I'm called a mutt, for instance, from my mixed background, I think, well, I want to ask people sometimes, well, when did your grandparents arrive? When did they come? When did they come to the country? And it's very disappointing that my fellow citizens forget that aspect of their historical backgrounds. And so America benefits from your citizenship. I love to see my country in this sense. We are a country of immigrants. We did not come out of thin air. No, we came over from the Eastern Hemisphere. So our origins are that of immigrancy. And I do feel that we should appreciate that and, not have negativity towards it. We have forgotten where we come from. us Americans. We come from different parts of the world, straight from day one, back in the 1500s, I believe, or 1400s. So that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
No, I'm glad you shared, and I agree with you.
Thank you, Raquel, for being so open. Thank you.
Anybody else? Was there anything in the chat? Okay, so you guys don't be shy, and it's not too late to throw something in there if you think about it. How does your being here make our country stronger and better? Because I believe it does.
I'm just going to add Sherry to kind of get the students comfortable with sharing. So maybe if we share a little piece, each of us, then they'll feel, I think it benefits because oftentimes immigrants have different lived experiences, right? And we talk about the cultural components and the attires and the food and things like that. But there's also a component about the way in which the schools work in other countries, in which the society is organized in other countries, in which the governments are organized in other countries. And then when we come here and we voice that, then we open up the door for an interesting dialogue. And so I think in that sense, it's really beneficial. So just wanted to share that to kind of inspire students to share a little bit as well.
And that goes right in line with Ariana is saying. She says, because we are educating ourselves.
I agree. So we are gaining new perspectives by hearing your perspective, and you are getting educated, and you are, gearing up to be out there in the workforce, and we need you. So there you go. So now we're coming back to your paper. Hopefully you have it, right?
So one of the things I want you to think about is that, as I said, we have a very important election coming up, right? And so actually every election is important. I'm a civics teacher, so it's not just always voting for the presidential elections, but we do have a very important presidential election coming up. And I think that a lot of times in civic education, or think of your social studies teachers in school, they were always like, make sure you vote. I think it's very important for us to send that message. Our vote does matter. I know that is something that, in various different occasions, sometimes people question whether our vote matters, but it is, a right that people have fought for centuries, and that our vote does matter. But I also think it's important that we take responsibility for what that vote means, right? So we need to think about when we're voting as a citizen, how does our vote, how does our identity sort of transmit through our vote? So I want you to think about some of these bubbles and how that kind of relates to your notion of citizen. And would anybody like to share what is like you put in the biggest bubble and how that might relate to citizenship?
And you can do it in the chat, or you can say it out loud, whatever you're comfortable with.
Well, and I can give an example, right? So for me, like, my biggest bubble is that I'm female. So in my mind, like, that is my biggest identity, the thing that influences my worldview, right? Is that I'm a female. And so when I think about what that means to be a citizen, some of that is like thinking about other women before me and the sacrifices that they have made to gain that citizenship. But then I also think about, when I'm looking at candidates, I'm thinking about, as a female, what issues are of the most importance to me, and which of those candidates are addressing those particular issues that are relevant to me and being a female. So in that way, that's how my identity sort of intersects with my notion of citizenship.
Do we have any answers in the chat as well?
Yeah, Raquel typed in millennial as the biggest bubble. Raquel,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you want to share something more about that.
Thank you. So it is understood almost universally that young people do not vote, and that is a big problem. because that's a huge voice that then does not impact voting and elections. So this is what I do. I filled in my ballot yesterday. I was doing research. Today I'm finalizing it. And when that laziness kicks in, because it's the laziness of the youth. Yes, I'm a youth, so I can say it. Oh, I like it. Alyssa said intellectual. Okay. Unfortunately, young people, we are known to be lazy and to not want to vote. Oh, I don't care. I don't really care. I don't know anything about the candidates, this and this and that. What I do to push that laziness away, when it creeps into my own mind, I think about, well, I know that there are women and there are men and there are people who don't identify with those genders that died for me to hold my ballot in my hands, that bled and that cried and that worked and persevered for me as a female, as a Hispanic, a person of color, a female, to hold my ballot. So I step out of my shoes and I reflect on history in that sense, and how I have this privilege now, a privilege that people for centuries worked so hard to achieve. So that's why I put millennial, because we are my generation in that sense. I am happy to say that we're making progress, but there's so much more that can be done by the youth. And so that's why that to me is the biggest one, because right now that is my age. That's what I identify with now. I don't know if anyone within the participants resonates with what I'm saying or agrees or disagrees, but yeah, I'd like to hear everyone's thoughts on the identity of millennial.
That's something I didn't think about. Part of my identity. So Raquel, I'm very happy that you brought that forward. Alyssa, I like your comment too, and I want to get back to that in a second, but I think that raises a good question. So if you, for those of you that may identify as a millennial in this conversation, what are some of the biggest issues that you think your generation or being a millennial faces? What are the things that are the biggest concern for you? And Raquel, you could start, but if anybody else wants to jump in, I would love to hear that.
Let's wait and see.
Huh?
Let's wait and see.
Oh, okay.
Ignorance of our generation, Ariana.
Ignorance of our generation from Ariana. Okay. So Ariana, would you like to expand on that a little bit more? I think you're exactly right, and I agree with you. Would you like to say why that's an issue, or?
We have Starla disagreeing.
Ah, cool.
Check it out.
This is a great place to disagree and agree. Talk to us.
So Starla says, I will have to disagree. I live in a state that does mail-in voting, and it is so much easier to look up candidates and be totally aware of what you're voting on.
Ah, so maybe she's saying you can't really say that you don't know when the information is right there if you want it.
And that you don't have to actually physically leave your house right now, right? If you live in a state with mail-in voting, right? We have voting as a right, not a privilege. When people say it's a privilege, like the governor of Florida, it justifies ex-felons not being able to vote again. Okay? And that's a big issue here in Florida. And, Ariana, I agree with you. It does not mean that everybody takes the time to do their research. And I guess that's why that's why Sherry and I wanted us to really reflect on our identity, because a lot of times I see people, we can share one of the findings from our research. One of the quotes was from one of our participants who had said, well, I typically vote the way my parents vote, right? And then we have another participant that says, I don't care how my parents vote. I take the time to think about my identities. And so, or I think about my voting and what that means, the candidates that I respect and things like that. So I think one of, those are some very real realities, is that, a lot of us has families that are very vocal about political perspectives, political issues. And it's fine if you agree with what your parents or family or partner or whatever believes, but in terms of taking the time to do the research to make sure that that actually fits with your own identity and what that means about being a citizen.
And these are interesting times, because in one of my bubbles, I put, I'm a daughter of engaged citizens, right? And growing up in my house, we would talk about elections and stuff like that. But not everyone in my family is going to vote the same in this election. And that makes for some interesting and sometimes strained conversations. But I bet there's a bunch of you guys that feel the same way. I'm just guessing. All right. We're going to get you involved one way or another. Are you ready for this? We have some polls and we're fixing to deploy them. We got these from Flanagan, Serveston, and Stout, civic measurement models. And they were actually younger people, I think, that were doing this because they were.
Yeah, this was looking at adolescent civic engagement. So it was related to like middle school and high school students, but we copied some of the questions that we think could be relevant to adults. We wanted to use them here.
Do I need to stop sharing for you to deploy the first poll?
You tell me, do you guys see it?
I see it.
I see
You guys see it? I want to see some answers there. I'll give you some time. Question 1. We're on question 1. Can you guys, are you able to vote?
Yeah, just do the first question. So if you love America, you should notice its problems and work to correct them. I see 1 vote. That means you have the power. Yay.
You do have the power.
2 votes.
2 votes. Come on. Well, we have a strong lead here.
And what I'm noticing is that there, all of the questions came up, so I think everyone's taking all of the poll at the same time.
Oh, okay.
That might be why it's taking a little while to let everyone vote it. So
All right.
Right now.
Should I scroll or not? I can be still.
Do you want to go to the next slide? Because I think the rest of the votes probably is us.
Okay, yeah, I like that idea. Let me click down here. Oh, wait. Question 2, just to make sure you can see it, is there. But it seems like we got a lot of votes on question 2 already. Yep.
We have 10 out of 13 that have completed the whole poll.
Oh, there's question 3.
Let's read it. Just question 2 for those that I oppose some US policies because I care about my country and I want to improve it. Do you want to read question 3?
Sure. Being actively involved in community issues is my responsibility. And then we have 1 more question, question 4. Let me move this. Being concerned about state and local issues is an important responsibility for everyone. All right, all right.
I think we got all.
So let's go back and look at your answers. Here we go. Oh yeah, yay, sharing results. So most people feel like if you love America, you should notice its problems and work on them. However, we have a completely dissenting vote that says, no, I don't agree. And we have somebody who's maybe, maybe not. Anybody want to speak to your answer? Tell us why you answered the way you did. And you can do it in the chat, which I still can't see. Is there anything there?
No, these are from our previous discussion where it says one in lower row, my parents are opposites. One is for Biden and hates Trump. The other loves Trump and is a diehard fan. Then there's me who's stuck in the middle. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's reality for a lot of people right now. And may you move the slide to question 1. Oh,
yes, I can do that. Ready? And let me move the results so you can see it.
So yeah, I would like to answer the question.
Yes.
So, hi.
Hey, Maria.
Hi. I wanted to say that I think about the Constitution and how embedded in its words it says we're here to create a more perfect union. So when we see all of these issues that are going on, it is our responsibility. We're meant to be more progressive as like time goes on, just to like make it better for like our future generations. At least that's my opinion. I feel like you can't just think about yourself and the present, but you also have to keep in mind for the future.
All right, then. So
Thanks, Maria. That's great. Thank you for sharing.
Well, and I love the way you feel like we should change over time instead of just staying in a rut. I mean, I'm all about change. Look at the color of my lipstick today. No. Okay, so question 2, and I'll do it on the big screen as well, was, wait, I hit it too hard. So I oppose some US policies because I care about my country and I want to improve it. And fewer of you strongly agreed on this one. There were some 3 that just agreed. We have one that's uncertain and one who strongly disagrees. I would love if you're willing to throw in the chat. I realize that means you're no longer anonymous. But if you strongly disagree, then telling us why, because we need to hear your voice too. Everyone's voice is important. And I would guess there are some people who feel it may even be unpatriotic to say that you oppose some of our US policies, that it's like un-American or unpatriotic. Does anyone want to share why you do agree or why you're not sure?
May I?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not sure if Eric is still in the meeting, but in our first TTR, Tuesday Times Roundtable with Eric, we discussed gerrymandering. So that is an example of, oh yeah, Sarah was like, oh, she made that face. So gerrymandering is a very tricky, form of legislation because it can be used to the advantage of politicians. And so then they sway their constituents, thus swaying the votes and the election results. So there are times where, unfortunately, our legislators create laws that are really not in the favor of the people. And so it is our responsibility as citizens to keep an eye on that. Oh, hey, that's wrong. Let's do something about this. So I chose 5, strongly agree, because there are scenarios where we really should keep a closer eye on these policies and determine whether or not they should be held or not. So that's my reasoning.
Well, and gerrymandering is a way for, if I'm in office, I can stay in office because I know the people that live over here will vote for me and keep me in office, even though it may mean that a large part of the people that live near me, I'm not representing their voices at all, but I can find a way to stay in office. All right. Moving on
to an earlier Tuesday Times Roundtable. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Question 3, being actively involved in community issues is my responsibility. And the results of this poll say 45% of you strongly agree with this, 36% of you do agree. We have a couple of you who not only disagree, but strongly disagree. Again, tell us what you're thinking. We'd love to hear from you. So your community, they can do what they want as long as you're safe and secure, or not.
I think, Sherry, I just want to add really quickly that I think that part of people not feeling comfortable voicing such a different opinion is because of the fear of being alienated, right? And particularly in this environment, a lot of people have moved to extremes. And so they just feel like they, if they share how they truly feel, they don't have the skills to engage in a healthy dialogue, right? That people will get emotional. And so this is not for right now, but I loved just to put it out there towards the end, if you could share some advice on that, on how to have these healthy dialogues around these topics of civic identity and like how to engage in this. It's a hard conversation. And I know my students are usually very talkative, and I feel like part of it today is just feeling like this is can be touchy subject, and they don't want to be seen as the enemy or anything like that. So I know that that's a skill set that we as an office need to help our students develop and feel more comfortable sharing that. So I appreciate everybody that has been very open, but I also understand the students that don't feel ready yet to share.
Yeah.
No, Yenny, thank you for bringing that up too. And I'd be more than happy to talk about this because this is sort of like what I do. Well, right now I'm chair of a department, but in my previous life, this is what I do, is talk about this and how do we have civil discourse around political conversations. The other thing that I think is important, so I'm glad that you mentioned that. I think it's also important for us to think about the fact that, especially with this presentation where we're talking about cultural identity and civic identity, that our culture and the way that we've been raised also influences our willingness or our comfortability of speaking out about certain things, right? So in some particular cultures, like, well, I'll even say this, I am like with Sherry, I did grow up in a family that we had these political conversations at our table, at our kitchen table. However, I was also raised as a female Catholic, and my mother was raised like, don't make a stink, don't cause conflict. So I'm also in my life, I've been a conflict avoider because I was told to just be quiet and friendly and nice and whatever. So in that sense, like I do have this same kind of tensions when I'm in a group of people I don't know very well and don't feel comfortable with voicing my opinions in some instances because I am afraid of that particular conflict. So I also think it's important, as we're talking about cultural identity and the intersection with civic identity, to also recognize those things too. So that's fine for whoever feels comfortable speaking, and if you don't, that's fine too. We're just here trying to get us actively engaged in this conversation.
That's true. Well, and I'll share an example with you guys. I had a conversation about 4 years ago, maybe 3, with my brother and sister-in-law and my folks. We were all at the table. This is in Texas. And I, for once, because I was raised to, if you disagree, go to your room. You can't openly say you disagree with your folks. So I was using my voice and I said what I thought, and my sister-in-law ended up getting really angry. And that was interesting and different. But what I said was, look, as long as at the end of the day, we're still family, I'm okay, right? So I hope you guys know we love all of you. We're still family. It doesn't matter what you say in here. This is a safe space, but also I understand if you don't want to speak out. But don't lose family members over these kinds of things. Just let them know how important the relationship is, but you'd like to talk about some stuff, right?
And the most important thing from this lesson is that at the end of the day, no one sees your vote. So you are able, that is your right, your right to have your opinion and to put that in a vote that no one sees, and put that forward for, in the act of being, an active citizen in the United States.
For sure.
Maybe we should just get to the we can just share some preliminary findings, and then we can open it up to a larger discussion. So just wanted to share some of the things, just to have you as points that you can reflect on, right? Is some of the narratives that our participants were saying. And so when we were asking them about their own civic and cultural identity, one participant, Eric, these are all pseudonyms. So this particular individual, his parents are Cuban, and he said civic identity is a legal status. So citizenship, I'm just going to go with the legality of it. If you have the card, then you're a citizen of this country. But then another participant said it's a state of mind. It's how you see yourself. They said, I don't think you need the paperwork to identify as an American. And he even pointed out that some of the students in his school were actually US citizens, but would go live in Cuba if they felt that it was safe or if their family wanted to. And then another participant said, it's who you say you are. Do you like this country? Then you're a citizen. If you go abroad, are you telling people that you're American? So there's these different notions of what it means to have civic identity.
And you guys, if you feel differently, you can throw something in the chat on this as well.
Well, there's a comment in the chat that says, let me know if you disagree, but I think that as a person, at some point, you do have to take responsibility and be involved with the people and issues around you.
Well, and it can be even just being a good neighbor. That's part of being a citizen, right? You care about the people that live next to you. They go out of town, you're going to watch their house. And if you go out of town, they'll watch yours. If there's a dog running around the neighborhood, you're going to try and get it to its owner and not hold it hostage for a ransom, right? Just some small ways even of being involved in your neighborhood that you might not have thought about. Oh, that's being a citizen? Well, I personally think it is. So,
yeah, Carla, would you like to expand on what you said?
Which one?
Starla, that was the comment from Starla.
Oh, cool.
Is there anything else that you would like to say about your particular comment?
Hey, sorry, I'm dealing with my toddler back and forth, and so I just got him out of the room, so I've been trying to type. I feel like, and I guess I just experienced this recently. I had to move to a different state, well, across the United States, and it was during the pandemic. And when I got here, like my car got broken into. So not only am I scared because of the pandemic, but I'm also dealing with my car getting broken into, things being stolen. And I feel alone. And so then when I started reaching out to my neighbors and stuff like that, I was just like, for most of my life, I've been like, in like whatever I was doing at the time, kind of like isolating myself to whether I was working or I was in school, but that was my group. I didn't care really what was going on around me where I lived. So then whenever I moved and I started reaching out to my neighbors, I was just like, there is a whole community that I didn't know about. Like there are people that care, that of course they have different views than me. We don't agree on a lot of things, but the fact that we all live in the same place is one thing that we have in common. Yeah. And so for us all to come together and just like, hey, neighborly, you're making too much noise in like random times of the day, or hey, I found a cat, does this belong to anyone? So stuff like that, it's just at one point you have to look up, look away from your phone and see that there is a person beside you and they have beliefs, even if they're different than yours, but like just to be involved in other people's life. I think that, I feel like if we were more involved in other people's lives, then yes, that we'd have less problems out there, because if people cared more, there wouldn't be as much issues as we have now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Yeah. He's quiet right now, so I was trying to talk as fast as possible.
That's fine.
Good job. Oh my goodness. So Juan said it's about making your voice heard. And just like Starla said, even if that's just talking to your neighbor, right? We also hope and feel like if you're here today, you are probably going to vote because you have already decided to be involved in your FIU community, in your Global Learning Medallion community. And yeah, I feel like one way you can make your voice heard is to vote. But he also said, I'm not sure my opinion's even valid because I'm not a.
And the interesting thing about Juan is he came from Venezuela, and so he's actually not considered a citizen, an American citizen, or a Venezuelan citizen. So by leaving Venezuela, he gave up his citizenship there, but by being here, he's not quite an American citizen yet either. And so what I think is really interesting about this comment, and there may be individuals on this call, on this video presentation, you may know of people that are also in this void. If we define citizenship as voting, but yet I'm not a citizen yet, because I can't vote. The idea is that there are other ways that voting is not the only way, or the paper, as some individuals have said, it's not the only way we can define ourselves as citizens, right? And as to put this into a global perspective, or in the global world, we are also global citizens, right? So when we think about the ways that we interact with the world and what we're doing as citizens of the world, we do have various notions of citizen, and we have different identities as citizens, right? So we could be a global citizen, we could be a local citizen, we could be a naturalized citizen, things like that. Yeah.
Well, and I would be interested in what you guys think. Does his opinion matter? Is it valid or not? And you can just give a thumbs up if you think it's still valid or not. Yeah. The last quote we have for you here on this slide is from Sarah. And she is from a mixed background, right? Dominican and Peruvian. And she said, as far as my civic identity to advocate and my cultural identity to be grateful and give back, I feel like, yeah, I want to be able to turn around tomorrow and help, I guess, younger girls of color. So for her, it's really about giving back. And she's not the only one who said that. So it may be that a lot of y'all feel that way, that the idea of being a citizen is giving back. And I know we're running out of time, so we're down to our final thoughts. And kind of like what Raquel was saying at the very beginning, this person is saying, look, Miami-Dade, it's composed of immigrants. And it doesn't really matter where you're from. Oh, you're from Venezuela? You're from Cuba? You're from Chile? On some level, he feels like most people know they are American. Oh. And for Chris Cameron, when it came down to his naturalization ceremony that he wrote about, he said, we may be turning people away, but they're still going to come. And I guess that's what I want to leave you with anyway, is why is it people are still going to come? They're still trying to get here. Because I think there's something about this United States that we have to offer. Sarah?
Yeah, I was just looking at the chat too, because like Nikita had written a passage about thinking that the best kind of patriotism is trying to improve issues in society. If you blindly accept everything, it can turn into a sort of nationalism, exceptionalism, where you disregard things that do not directly affect you. A lot of people in my family's county, St. Lucie, do not vote for local issues in city council. And I think that that's the case across the board. And I really love that my AP government teacher in high school stressed voting on local issues. I think it's great when you find something in your community that interests you. For example, my mom helps with women's shelter in her city. So thank you, Nikita, for sharing that. I wrote back, I'm super excited to know that you had such a great government teacher, because that's what I do, is I train government teachers. And so I'm glad that there are amazing high school teachers out there. And it's really cool that you're seeing the value of in interacting in local issues, and that your mom is actually examples like volunteerism. That's also part of being civically engaged. Yeah.
All right. So thank you guys for joining us today. Oh, I just got to see the chat. We've had 25 things going on in the chat that I didn't even get to see. So thank you. Awesome.
It's 1:30, but I feel like we could, I wish we could continue this conversation. It was so interesting and something we definitely have to repeat. I don't know what else is in the chat. Any final thoughts? I just wanted to say thank you so much. Again, for this conversation, like Jenny said, this is very emotional, and I feel like all of us have, in some sense, the friends and family that are in one side and the other side. We're all trying to leverage these, so many emotions. But any questions, any comments, thoughts from everyone?
Sorry, I thought Florencia, either you or Yenny had put in the chat the voting guide.
I did. I put the link to the voting guide, which we sent out to all the GLM students yesterday. So we did one, I think 2 weeks ago. We did this one this week, and I think there might be a third one coming up. And it just has so many resources, as Raquel was saying, you know, Raquel, I don't think it's only youth. Sometimes, like, even when I looked at my ballot, I thought, I don't know these judges, I have to look them up. And so we're sharing our resources to make it easier for people to, it's not only be registered to vote, it's understanding how to vote, it's reading constitutional amendments that are written in a way sometimes to confuse people about what you're really voting for, right? And so we have compiled events and resources for you all to be able to kind of think about how you're going to participate, and also resources for you to volunteer in different ways if you want to be a little bit more active on that regard. There are ways to like send text from home, send postcards from home, if you feel like it's not necessarily safe for you and your family to actually be a poll worker or something like that. So I just wanted to share that. And if also, I'm just going to add my email there because you'll have Florencia's already. If you have questions about voting, please reach out, because we just, all of these are non-partisan resources. We just want you to be able to exercise your right to vote. So I'm just gonna share that. Thank you for reminding me, Sarah.
Well, and thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, yes.
Yes, we really appreciate your participation. Sherry put in the link to the New York Times article for those of you that might want to read the whole thing. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I really enjoy interacting with you all and kind of hearing how you all, like, that might identify as millennial, right, are thinking about these ideas.
Yep. And I'll see you guys next week. Same place, same time as a participant.
Right, we want to see you guys next week. We prepare a schedule in regards to all of that. And as you can see, and Raquel brought it up, you might bring what you learned or what was discussed in a previous TTR to this conversation. And this is what you want. We don't want to have one opinion and everything. We want to hear your voices, different opinions. That's what these sessions were created. And again, thank you both so much for such an engaging presentation and important discussion.
Thanks for having us.
I wish we would have more time. This was amazing. We've done so many things, and I still have my notes on the novels here. Thank you so much. Please feel free to reach out to us if you want more information on the presenters, whatever you need. Yenny and I are here. Please reach out. And yes, we will see you next week, next Tuesday.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you for everything. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.